The south of Vietnam. The south is famous for doing business. It's famous for, it's the place where Nuoc means Nuoc. In Vietnamese, Nuoc means water as well as land, and in the south, the land is the water, or the water is the land. Due to the COVID situation, I was not able to travel, and I couldn't go to the south, so I have to use the material I still had from the past. For example, the first time when I visited Ho Chi Minh City, it's more than 10 years ago, I made this picture, and because I loved it. I was sitting there with a few friends, and then I saw all those wires and all the traffic, and you know, the traffic in Vietnam is incredible. They are the best motor drivers in the world, but only in Vietnam. It's so ingenious. And you might think, oh, it's a chaos. How does that work? Well, that's the nature of Vietnam, especially in the south. You know, when you're living near a mountain, then you adjust your life to the mountain. When you're living in the south, you adjust your life to the south. And it's nice because now we can have some satellite pictures. And this is a picture of a Camao. And then you see, it looks like camels, but in fact everything is water. There are mangroves, and that's the south. Water, water, water. The best thing is, you can compare it, when I was living in Hanoi, we went with a motorbike to the market. Thanks to Anne, she went there for me because I cannot travel to Hanoi, so Anne made the picture. Well, in fact, the video. And in the south, they go by boat. And the camels, doing business. Water, business, that's the south. And that's already for several thousand years. It's not like today. No, the south didn't change that much. It doesn't matter who is living there, it is the south, it's water and business. And the reason for that, maybe the biggest, most important reason is that it has the Mekong and Mekong Delta. The Mekong is one of the biggest rivers in the world, even. And well, in the north they also have a very big river, the Red River. But when in the rainy season, the Red River can rise 15 meters. And that's difficult when you're living there nearby. In the south, they also, because should have that problem, but they don't have that problem because of the Tonle Sap lake in Cambodia. So I show you here. Here is the Tonle Sap lake. The Mekong comes, and it has a lot of water, but it doesn't go straight to the Mekong Delta. It goes to the lake here. And the Tonle Sap lake is completely empty in the dry season, very big. It's the biggest lake in South Asia, I believe. And it only has trees and plants, and then there is growing a lot of things. And then it fills up with water and fish, because there's a lot of food for fish there. And at the end of the rain season, then the water goes to the Mekong Delta. So at the Mekong Delta, it's always in balance. The water is always the same height. And the nice thing is, the Tonle Sap lake, it comes completely empty, leaving a lot of fish hanging in the trees. So there are very few fish trees, but in Cambodia they have. And because of that, the delta of the Mekong is so big. It has so many canals, so many things to travel to make transport, and then 3,000–4,000 years ago, there was already a lot of traffic around, and you see here the point, the south part of Vietnam, that was visited already a lot by many travelers, many businessmen, many trade ships and things like that. And they found the south of Vietnam a very nice place to, when there's a storm, they always found a channel to, or a canal to stay safe and things like that. And the result was that a lot of people, they visited her, and several of them, they say, oh, wait a moment, I stay here and I start my business here. And that happened through the whole south part of Vietnam. And people came from everywhere, because, you know, when Chinese were traveling to India, or India to Chinese, they did not like to be in open sea, they liked to be on the coast, so when there is a storm they could always hide. And they had many places there in the south where they were hiding and where they were meeting. And that is, well, it has a lot of water. This time I have a bottle with me. So, and what, when you do business, they didn't have computers at that time. They had something else, the abacus. And this one I just bought recently because they are still using it. Children still learn to it. It's, if you're not good in piano, you can always play abacus. And when you look in this Wikipedia, you can go to Wikipedia abacus, and then you will see it has a picture, and on the picture you see the Chinese abacus. It's dated 2,200 years ago or something like that. And in the article they say, it is so funny that it is almost the same version as the Roman has in that time. And then they write, we don't know how that is possible. Well, I think they should walk through the Wikipedia themselves, and then they will see that in the south of Vietnam, before they found the oldest abacus in China, those Chinese businessmen, they were already meeting Roman businessmen, and they were doing business. And when you do business, you use the tick. So, is it a strange idea to think, well, maybe the Roman, when they were doing business with the Chinese, maybe they exchanged them, maybe they give, oh, nice to meet you, I have some present for you. I think that could be going like that. And in those days, it was not like it was poor. No, there was going on a lot of cultivation already. For example, most of the people, they were living on a boat. Of course, there were many cattle. On a boat, you cannot have a stove like on land. So they had their own kazan. And how does it look? We know that because recently, a few years ago, Vincom Garden magazine, they wrote about a pottery village in Anjian, and they are still making the same kazan as more than 2,000 years ago. So that's so, and that's not the only thing. For example, I recently bought this book from Nguyen Hu Thai, and it's about houses, and then I saw this picture. And this is exact the type of houses they were having also in that time, in the time 2,000 years ago, and they're still having the same kind of houses built on the water, because that was one of the problems. The Mekong was not a big problem, but the sea often raised and go down, so they had to handle, they were always digging canals to control the sea. Well, what happens now, we have to go make a few big steps, 2000 years in fact. Those small local things, they went together and they became at the end a kind of empire. There was one group was bigger and then they start to play the boss. And the first empire, this looks very nice, it was Funan. And that started about 200 Common Era. And then, like always in those days, but it's still even now going on, when you have a big, and there was a big place, so always some people say, yeah, why is he the boss, maybe I can be the boss, and yeah, that went on. And then we had, that happened also after 300-400 years, we get the Empire of Chenla, and then we get the water Chenla and the land Chenla, and then it became bigger, and then it became the Khmer. You see, or the Khmer, and then today it has, we have here Cambodia, and you see here already, well, that part is Vietnam. So this part is Vietnam and Cambodia. There are still in the south of Vietnam, you still have some of the original people. They have become the Khmer, and later from the north came also the Viet and all together. But you might think, yeah, it's totally different. In a lot of historical books you do not read so much. But for me, this is Vietnam. And when you talk about the south of Vietnam and the history, you have to talk about this part also. And we know more and more about that because there was a very famous place, Oc Heo, it's here. And they found a lot of things there, a lot of very, very interesting things, very beautiful things. When you know, in the 2000 years ago in the north, you had Dong Song, they make those big drums, very beautiful. In Sao Wen, they made jars, very beautiful. But in this region, in the south, those ships, they were not always that very big, and they would like to have some present for at home. So instead of big jars, big drums, they had a lot of jewelry. And the Ho Chi Minh City Museum, Historical Museum, a few years ago they had a very beautiful exhibition with all those beautiful jewelry. It could be, they could be from today. Very nice, very lovely. And what you also saw was the influence of India. The Buddhism, but also all those statues, those beautiful things that you also find in the Champa Museum, but you see many of them in several temples in the south. However, one of the very typical Indian culture aspects, the family, that's how you can see that the south always has been Vietnamese, and well, kind of Vietnamese. In India, the family is a clan, and the bigger the clan is, the bigger the family, and you recognize each other under a family name. So you're a member of the family when you have the same name. The Vietnamese in the south, the people in the south who were living there, they didn't take over that concept. They are considering a family as they consider a family in Vietnam. You are a member of a family because you are a member of a family. A family is smaller, is closer, is more warm. It's not because you have the same name. Well, 60% of the Vietnamese are called Nguyen, so but it's just different, very, very different. That and when you ask Vietnamese what is the most important in your life, they will say, my family. So the fact that in the South they have the concept of the family as the Vietnamese has is telling you already that the South is Vietnamese, because so many stories of the South, they are almost the same as in the rest of Vietnam. In my previous video I was telling about the Vietnamese princess who had to marry the Cham King, and when he died she didn't like to join him in that. So she ran away. That's typical for Vietnamese girls. They don't let them play with them. They say, no way, up. They ran away. In the South happened exact the same. It was a girl, and she was quite nice. She was living in Tay Ninh province, and she was very beautiful. Yeah, that's always with Vietnamese girls. And very smart, of course. But the parents, they want to force her to marry. And she said, no way, I will go through the mountains to the top, to the temple, and there I will be safe. Yeah. Sadly, she didn't make it to the temple, because they're also living a lot of very aggressive and animals. So the government has now solved that problem, and they built a cable. So when you don't want to marry and you want to go to the temple, you don't have to go through the dangerous route. Sometimes heroes, they do not always have to do very, very big things. It can be also something very, very small, like the woman with her om. Om is a big jar to carry water, and it was in An Giang in the mountains, and there were a lot of enemies and soldiers, and her family were hiding up in the mountains. And then she went down to the river, get water, and came back with her om, carrying the om, and suddenly she hears soldiers, enemy soldiers. So she stood still, because when they had discovered her, they would have found her family and murdered the whole family. So she was very, very brave, and she stayed there the whole day, and her shoulder the whole night. Next day, next night, 3, 4 days, and then the soldiers went away. And then she also wanted to go to her family, but she couldn't move anymore. She had become a part of the mountain herself. So that's the story of by the way, on the mountain of the Ba. Ba is lady, and I know that because there are some nice books. And here you can see the mountain looks like her. Very nice story. But not all women, they just still. It was the opposite. We know that from the north, we had Hai Ba Trung, and we also know that in the north you had Ao Ko and her husband, the dragon guy, and we also know from the story from Hoi Kim Ling, the sword. And I suggested in another video that that sword was made in the Dong Song period. And then you might think, yes, but so many hundreds of years, what happened to that sword? Well, that's what we know, because in Vietnam you have a lot of ethnic groups, and one of the ethnic groups who live long time in Vietnam is the Ma. And they are very nice, friendly people, but there were also a lot of unfriendly people coming there and they're stealing and you know, that was not nice. So there was a young man girl, and then one day she got a sword, a magic sword, and there was also a fairy who teach her how to use it. And that's a story you find in this book. And she overrun all those bandits, and then there was a dragon, and he said, wow, you have done such a great thing. You know what, I will give you a lot of water and we make a great river. So, and that's how the Dong Nai River was created. So, well, Vietnamese women, you must be very, very careful sometimes, because you know they are also human. And there was a very nice couple, family Nye, and Mrs. Tin Nye. She was nice, but her sisters, her family, they were always saying, hey, your husband is always going so early away, and then he crossed the canal, and then with all those people on the boat, and then he's coming back very, very, very late always, and coming by on the boat. I wouldn't trust him. He's a cute man, and there are so many women on the boat, and she became very, very suspicious, and you know, you do not talk about, because she couldn't say, and on a certain moment she couldn't hold it anymore, and bang, she built a bridge. Yeah, well, it's also a solution. So, to build a bridge, yeah. Yeah, that's what happens. And that bridge is still in Ho Chi Minh. If you go there, you can see on the canal, it says Cao Nye. It's her bridge. It's still there. That's how Vietnamese women are. The South has so many interesting histories also. History that they are not always written down, or we have to wonder sometimes also. Let's say, for example, in the same wiki article, it says that around 600, 700, the Chinese started to use the zero, Hong, the zero. And they write, it is supposed that they brought the zero from India. And that sounds great, but again, they should read also other pages in the Wikipedia, because in around 600, 700, what happens in Chenla, the Chenla Empire, they were the first zero in the world is found in the south of Vietnam, in a temple near the Mekong. So when the Indian people know the zero, it's because they were also there. And a lot of those people, the Chinese, they also always made a stop there. And I think, well, they say, yeah, but the first zero in that found in Vietnam, it is not just an open zero, it has black inside. And then I think, yeah, of course, that's not so strange, because I can imagine how that did go in that. You see those people, they came there and they were doing business and they talking and they say, yeah, and what kind of things can you do? You build houses, very nice, and then and then this, and then the Khmer, Chenla, he would say, oh, we dig canals to control the sea. Ah, yes, and we also dig holes. Yeah, Vietnamese are very good in digging tunnels, and it starts with a hole, and then the guy, hole, what's a hole? And the other say, yeah, a hole, I show you what a hole is. It looks like this, you see, and then you have a kind of O. Ah, said he, and what's in it? There's nothing in it. It's dark in it. It's nothing. It's a zero. It's nothing in it. It's nothing. And I think that's why the first zero, the nothing that they found in the temple near the zero, is black inside to indicate there is nothing in it. It's just zero, nothing in it. It's just my idea, of course. So, where we're talking, oh yeah, digging. Vietnamese are very, very good in digging. I remember one story, and it's a real story, but because I do not have my books here now, and I don't know exactly which village it is, but there is a village in the south, and then the man and the woman, they had a discussion about who is going to lead the village and who is going to do this. And then the man said, yeah, we are stronger and we are thing, and the woman said, yes, but we also have our abilities. Well, let's do a contest, yeah? We make a competition. We're going to dig holes because we are very good in digging holes. You dig holes and we will dig a hole here. And the deepest one, they will win. And we start on the evening, when the sun goes down, we start. And we stop in the morning when the sun comes up. Oh yeah, the man said, yeah, great, no problem. So they start digging. Yeah. The men were very, very... and the women, they also... But they were smart. So a few hours before the sun will come up, one of them, they just like a rooster does. And you know, when one rooster jumps over the fence, the other will follow. Or was that with sheep? Well, it doesn't matter. In each case, suddenly all the roosters, they start, and the man, hey man, it's finished. Oi! Hey! What we will do? And they say, oh, we have some beer. Yeah, okay. And then they say, okay, you want beer? Yeah, okay. You want beer? And then they say, yeah, with beer it's better, like more high bar up, high bar, oh, yeah. So they started and they had a really great fun. They also had a lot of beer. And the girls just went on digging. So because the men were drinking so much, they didn't notice that it still took several hours before the sun came up. And when the sun came up, they were very zatvoi, very happy and very drunk. And well, the women, they won the contest. And the men, well, they also had so much fun. So and every year they came back together to have their celebrating their loss. And the funny thing is that when you're driving through Vietnam, you often see this kind of groups, but also many more, and they're all hi, bye, oh, yeah. It has become very typical Vietnamese for men. As you see, only men sitting there. Sometimes they also have women, but in general, it's the men are celebrating that the women are so smart. So there are so many things in common. It's the same with animals. For example, in the north In the middle they have elephants, convoy, I talked about in the previous video. In the south, because they have a lot of water, but they also have elephants, although they call them whales. And they even have a big festival, big whales festival. So, and I also was telling about the pigs that they were burying when somebody died, and then in the grave they also, pigs are incredibly important. But it's the same when you see the picture of the situation there, only water, 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 and in water you have fish swimming, ka. And a pig is heo. So in the south it's called kaheo. And they look a little bit different. Those are kaheo. And when you see how beautiful and elegant they are, it's not so difficult to see that, or to realize that the beauty, they are very smart. And I was planning to make the video in the south, but it was not possible because of the COVID. So lucky in the non-cafe and the non-tea and cafe shop, there the wife of the owner, she's a teacher, and although the schools are closed, she knew some of her students. And in Vietnam, in Da Nang for sure, in the high school, girls, they have to wear an áo dài. So she called some of her students, and thus I was able to show you what is more elegant and more smart and beautiful than a kaheo. It's a Vietnamese girl in áo dài. That's the problem in not only in Vietnam, but in a lot of countries. For a long time, girls were not allowed to study, and now they are allowed to study, and they study, 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 because they think, oh, we are not smart, we have to study, study, study. And you see all over the world, the girls there, yes, it's promising for the future. Thank you. See you in the next video. Xin chào.